Coming to the third question. Third question is about the intellectual property rights. Let's see. What is the present world scenario? The question is, what is the present world scenario of intellectual property rights with respect to life material? With respect to life material. Although India is second in the world to file patents, still only a few have been commercialized. Explain the reason behind the commercialization, low commercialization. So this is the question, 10 marker, 150 words. So this is also the GS3. You can link this particular topic with GS3 industry part. There we read about the intellectual property rights. So how can you can start this question? Introduction. In the introduction, you can one way is that you can start with the definition given by the WTO of IPR, intellectual property rights. Generally, it is known as the creation of mind. Creation of mind. So it is the rights over creation of mind. Along with it should have certain characteristics, like it should be the novel, it should be distinctive, it should have the commercial value. So those are also the characteristics which help a particular product or process to get the patent. So that way you can define this particular topic and start this question. The second part of the question will be, which will be the body part 1. In the body part 1, you have to talk about the present world scenario. Present world scenario. Present world scenario of intellectual property rights with respect to life materials. Life materials can be mostly, I think this is in the context, this question has been asked in the context of the IPR waiver which was provided at the WTO level to COVID-19 vaccines and related drugs. It was actually initiated, this demand for the waiver on the essential drugs related to the COVID-19 was made by India and South Africa. And ultimately it was provided under the WTO meeting, ministerial meeting. So in that context it has been asked, and it is particularly talking about the life materials. For example, like the drugs, life-saving instruments, medical instruments, such related components, and the products and processes should be focused on that part. So present world scenario with respect to IPR in the world life material can be, first point should be TRIPS agreement, TRIPS of WTO. TRIPS agreement which is signed under the WTO should be the first one, because it provides the framework for the patent of life drug or the life material. So it covers that also. So this can be the first point. Point number 2, within this, if you want, you can also mention about the presence of compulsory licensing. Compulsory licensing. Compulsory licensing means that when the government feels that one particular drug or the process is very, very significant for the public health security, government can allocate that particular intellectual property, that particular process or product to other company who are not having the IPR, who are not having the patent. It can provide so that the production of that particular product or process can be expanded and we can ensure the health security of the people. So that can be done and it is allowed. You can talk here like compulsory licensing is allowed under the TRIPS. This is also the you can mention under the present world scenario. However, you can talk about here about the Paris Convention also, which talks about the patents. You can talk about the institution which is WIPO, which helps in the regulation as well as the monitoring development of intellectual property. World Intellectual Property Organization. World Intellectual Property Organization can be mentioned here in this particular part. Third, we can also talk about certain issues here. For example, this evergreening of patent. It is also a significant issue here, because many of the companies actually they bring a small change in the drug composition and try to get patent, so that they can get the benefit for many more years. So that is known as the evergreening of patents. That can also be mentioned here, because it actually affects the generic drug manufacturers, which impact the health security of many people, especially in the Asia and the African countries. Then the fourth point here you can also mention in this part will be the IPR waiver, which I just talked in the WTO meeting. IPR waiver on the COVID-19 vaccine and the related drugs. That point can also be mentioned here. You can also talk about the issue of biopiracy, especially the taking advantage through the bioprospecting, taking the building some kind of product or processes out of the traditional knowledge or the traditional commodities, and that is being patented by some of the countries and the companies. For example, we know that the haldi and the neem products was patented by some of the US companies, which was actually the traditional knowledge which is practiced from generations in India. So the protection of the traditional knowledge from biopiracy is also an important aspect in the world related to the life materials. Okay, so these are the 5 different points you can mention in the present world scenario related to the life materials. Next part of the question is that India is second in the world file patent. Here, this part should also be addressed. This part can be addressed. India is the second largest in terms of filing number of patent. India is the second largest. Who said that? You can talk about WIPO report. This organization submits a report which says that India is the second rank. That you contextualize. However, they have asked that commercialization of patents are very less. Yes, commercializations are not happening. What are the reasons? So basically here you have to give the reasons why the commercializations are not happening. You can give the different reasons. For example, one of the key reasons here is that academia and industry interface, this collaboration is weak. That is one of the reasons, despite academia is producing the new patents, able to get the new patents, that is not being translated or adapted by the industry, because there is a gap between the academia and industry. The second important point is that financial gap. The financial requirement to implement that particular unique idea may be one of the reasons. Recently, NASSCOM data has said that many of our startups are facing to get the venture capital fund and required viability gap funding. These things are required in the startups to actually materialize this kind of patents. Third can be the infrastructural gap, infrastructural bottlenecks to implement such patents in the ground level. That may require the advanced technology and the other supporting infrastructure in order to materialize that kind of patents. Fourth can be the regulatory hurdles. For example, red tapeism, the requirement of many clearances, specifically the environmental clearance, what we have observed with respect to the genetic modified crops, that kind of protest and the regulatory hurdle has been an important and a significant challenge with respect to the materialization or the ground level commercialization of the patents which has been filed. So these things can be the reason. Along with that, you can also mention about the traditional knowledge, piracy, related protest, and those things are also related to this one. Okay, implementation or the commercialization is not happening. At the end, since you are talking about the challenges, issues, it is always advisable to give some way forward, or if you are writing the conclusion, it should be the way forward based conclusion. In the way forward, you can talk about like there is the national policy on intellectual property right, intellectual property right policy 2016, you can say that the implementation of this policy in its letter and spirit should be the way forward to ensure that these IPRs are protected in India, which helps India to achieve the Viksit Bharat as well as become the knowledge economy of by 2047. So because intellectual property is related to the knowledge economy, so with that you can link in the conclusion part. So this way you can address the third question. I think this is the fifth question, can be addressed in this manner. Okay, so yeah, these were the three important questions today we discussed about the 2024 mains GS3 paper. Thank you so much.